Hey guys, Davin here, and this is a review so overdue that it's not even funny, and I had to take it over. Now, platformers aren't my style of game, but since Tim accepted a review code that I'll show on the screen right now, 2 months ago, it is now up to me to review the platformer as promised. I am not looking forward to this. Cue a cheesy intro. Black Hole, a platformer game based off of going through a black hole, or something like that. I wasn't bothered enough to actually get more than 60 minutes into playing. I'll get to that soon. In a hilarious mix of comedy and tragedy, the beginning just mixes those two well together, blends them nice. I like the intro. The only thing I didn't like about the introductory scene is the AI. The AI, whatever the name is, I forgot, is really annoying and cocky, and I don't like her at all. After actually playing the game, the cocky AI, in which I despise, follows me around everywhere via P88 tablet. Not something I enjoyed at all, considering the fact that I don't like her at all. Right? Ever since the beginning, ever since that first cutscene, I didn't like her at all, not one bit. And of course, with her for the entirety of the game, as far as I know. Now onto the levels. The levels seem alright. Nothing too special here, though. It's a generic platformer with a nice bit of challenging in them. They're just generic platformer, nothing too special. I enjoyed it, and I would have even more so if it wasn't based off of those orb thingies that build things, and you need a certain amount. You have to capture a minimum of one per level, and there's like 2 others at least in each level, and they're impossible to get unless you know exactly what you're doing, and which I don't know what I'm doing at all. And then you realize you have to have 13 to go to the next stage, but you need 3 more, but you can't get them. You thought you had them for one, and the others, it's impossible to get them. And if I got the ones on that one level, it would have been 12, and it would have been a nightmare, and Of course, what I went through was probably only the tutorial, let's be honest, basically, before I gave up. Just don't blame me. Don't blame me at all. Blame Tim for not bothering to review the game, and forcing me to do it last minute. Now, onto the sound design. It was, superb, to say the least. Some of the best sounds I've heard from an, presumably, indie game. The voices were clear, and the acting was supreme. Nothing out of indie game league, but it was actually pretty good, considering the amount of developers and what resources they had. All the sound effects were more or less a huge pro to the game. I enjoyed them a whole lot. Now, onto the science. Now, I'm not a scientist, and science seems absurd, I'll be honest. But you tried. Good job. Next, the graphics were actually great. Nothing I could complain about it there. The art style was there, and they did well for what it is. I enjoy the pixelation, unless it wasn't supposed to have any pixelation. I should probably get that checked out. But now, the graphics, art style, great. I'll complain about it in the final review. And here's for the final review. The game looks stunning. No complaining there. The visually appealing, mixed with the art style that they had, was great. Now, I'm not sure if that sentence actually makes sense, but I'm only doing one take because I'm lazy. Now, the art style is kind of heavily present in indie games, I'll be honest. However, most games don't actually do it as well as Black Hole did. It was a stunning graphical game compared to most other indie games, and well, for an indie game of this type, it was great. The sound was also a nice addition onto the graphics. Stunning bassy sounds and the explosions, crisp, clear voice audio. I was listening to it, I was wholly impressed. I thought it was probably going to be staticky garbage, I'll be honest. Like my microphone is right now. The story, from what I could tell, was pretty decent. It was cut and dry, generic. But what other games have you going through a black hole, saving your friends, at least from what I think the story is? Well, on the level design. Wasn't that stunning. It was alright. But it was basic platformer stuff. You jump high, you climb up ledges, you get the objectives, have a fit of rage, cry, throw your controller across the room because it's too frustrating. Now, I know they advertised it as challenging, but do you really need to make it that challenging for someone with no skill in obstacle course games at all? Like myself, overall, it was a good game, I'll be honest. Some issues. Now don't get me wrong, the game is beautiful and lovely. It's just the fact that it's somewhat bland and generic feeling. I'm getting the vibes of the story, but also a large, unwanted mixture of generic indie game. Now the game, in my opinion, the developers were trying to present a dark bluish feel. That's what I felt, an indigo maybe, max. But the indie game in it just mixed a lighter blue in there, and it just didn't feel as good. It mixed not so well, and it was, to be honest, a really bad mixture. I don't know what else to say about that, except the fact that the light blue tones did not mix well with the dark blue tones. So I'm not Angry Joe here, and I'm not going to make a 3-hour-long review of this game, but I can give you my overall feelings. Overall, my opinion for the game is an 8 out of 10. It would be a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. If I could toss in my biased opinion about platformers and indie games into the review. That wouldn't be fair, would it? Now, it was a good game for its graphics, sound, and story, but it wasn't so much for the actual gameplay, I felt. It was decent. I probably would never play again. But if you're into that kind of thing, the generic indie, extremely challenging, but let's be honest, extremely easy at the same time, game that has only one walkthrough video that I can find, then there you go. You buy it or whatever. Yeah. Cue outro music or whatever.